Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. The topic of our webinar today is Microsoft 365 Beyond Email. I'm joined by, as always, by our Vice President of Operations, Mr. Jermaine Clark. Jermaine, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. My name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO of Techify, and we do these webinars the third Wednesday of every month. Our goal with these webinars is to give everybody an idea of what's going on with technology, where it's going, what to kind of look out for. I know everybody has a whole bunch of things going on in their lives and work and stuff like that. And if we can help by spending half an hour, 45 minutes a month, give you a little bit of guidance and let you know where things are going, then I think we're being useful. That being said, our goal today is about 30 minutes of content, and then we answer questions afterwards. If you want to throw questions in the Q&A panel as we go along, we may answer them as we go along. We may answer them at the end, but put them into that Q&A panel, and we'll get going. We have a lot of people in this webinar. We had tons of people register, which was a good sign. We get the sense that it's a hot topic. People want to know a little bit more about how to use Microsoft 365 better and be more productive. So we're going to dive right into that. Just before we get going, though, quick plug for our next webinar, which is not going to be the third Wednesday of December. That's a little bit too close to the holidays. So we wanted to find a time well in advance of the holidays that we could do a special webinar. We're going to have a little bit of fun, talk about the 10 great tech gifts for home and office, give you a bunch of ideas, things that you can shop for at the last minute, or, well, I don't know, December 8th. It's not really the last minute. And we're doing it because it's December. We're going to do it at a slightly earlier time at 11 a.m. We figured that would be give us a better chance of having a sober audience and sober presenters by doing it at 11 o'clock in the morning. Not that anybody drinks at the holidays, right? That would be
makes good sense.
Yeah. Okay. So here's why. Let's get right into it. Here's why we're doing this this webinar today. I had a great conversation yesterday. I was at a event with a bunch of CEOs, and we started talking about technology. And one of the topics of conversation was, hey, we're all spending tons and tons of money on these different software licenses. It's subscription this and that, and it's AutoCAD and Creative Suite, and Microsoft 365 and Salesforce, and accounting applications and this, and just like the software licenses keep on going up and up and up. And this one CEO I was talking to was going through this and just sort of bemoaning how much money we have to spend on all these licenses and cloud services and stuff like that. And it's like kind of a common refrain. And I said to him, well, if you felt like your staff were really adapting and using these applications really well, would you feel better about spending the money? He's like, absolutely. And it's like this feeling that we all have today that we keep on paying more and more for applications and cloud services, but we're not getting more out of them, right? So that's what we got to figure out. We got to figure out how do we get the bang for our buck, right? How do we, from a Microsoft 365 perspective, there's an opportunity to save 4 hours a week per employee by using the Microsoft 365 suite better. And Jermaine, we're not making this up, right?
No, as usual, we're going to go ahead and throw it out there for all the people that like to see the credits around where we get our information and how we do it. And of course, you know what? It's well known now. The pandemic, if nothing more, has given us so much great opportunity and information around this that it's clear, 4 hours is going to be the minimum you're going to be saving, and we'll show you how.
Yeah, so there's this great study done by Forrester's, had all sorts of information. There were various parts of it that we picked out, and we've gone over this before in a couple of webinars, but I thought it was a good thing to revisit this. Information workers can save 100 minutes per week with better collaboration, information sharing, co-authoring, reviewing documents. I'm doing calls all the time with folks that are still using file servers and on-premise stuff, and people are emailing around documents and have a whole bunch of different versions of them and stuff like that. First line workers can save 140 minutes to over 2 hours a week with improved tools and information. And we can save 24 minutes by, what's this, Jermaine? Is this getting rid of something?
Yeah, you know, it's removing that issue. If you've ever been to any one of our webinars, we have a lovely repeating slide, and it says no VPN. Nice big red circle with a scratch through it. No more VPN.
No VPN. Imagine 24 minutes of work. If you've got 30, 40, 50, 100 employees, how much time that saves a week across all of your employees. And here's the kicker. So many people spend so much time looking for documents, looking for information, tracking down colleagues. This one McKinsey study said 20% of people's time they're looking for information. Imagine that's a day a week. So
I mean,
if you could just
work a 5-day week.
Yeah. Hey, just work. Hey, is everybody just want to work 4 days a week? That'd be great. All right, we're going to help you get there. So how do we move beyond just email? Jermaine, how do we do it?
Well, you know, from a Techify perspective, we're going to take the exact approach that we take to every other thing. If you've been to a cybersecurity webinar, if you've been to one of our many collaboration webinars or any of those, the one thing that's a common thread is for you to do anything, you need to have a plan. You need to have a structure. You need to have a repeatable and testable environment that you can go back and update your perspectives and change things. Okay. So the way we're going to do it and how we're going to show you to move beyond that email is by having a roadmap and discussing the process and how we're going to get from point A, where we are today, to point Z, where we'd like to be in the future.
Absolutely. So there's 4 parts. There's 4 parts of this roadmap, right? And in order to move beyond email, you got to go through these different levels. So you take level 1 is what we call collaboration, right? This is the foundation. If we're building a house, we need to do foundation first.
Yeah, and it's the first place to save the most amount of time. It's because, you know, even if you're in the office and you're walking around trying to get some communication set up, having a conversation to make a decision on something, and you need it to happen within a short space of time because the cutoff time is 1 p.m. and you got this idea at 10 a.m. and you need everything to be done so that you can get it to the printers, you got to have this collaboration level under wraps, fully ingrained.
It sounds like a true story from our day this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. All the best examples are what happened earlier today. So it's always a good one.
So we have foundational piece. It's your email on Microsoft 365. It's using SharePoint. It's using Teams. That's the foundation. If you're not there, you can't start to build up the frame. So the frame and starting to build up the structure of your house is level 2. It's building adoption, right? Level 1, you take the horse to water. Level 2, let's get that horse drinking. What do we need to do to get that horse drinking, Jermaine?
So look, this is the most important one, in my opinion, for anything when it comes to change management, right? The adoption has to happen, and building that adoption has to start with the founders of the organization, the people who are in charge, the people who set the pace for how everybody else is going to work, right? And the only way you can do adoption and build in that adoption, it doesn't matter what the solution is. It doesn't matter what the solution is. To build that adoption, it has to be demonstrated by the people who everyone looks to be inspired by. And it's
so you're led.
You're
the folks that are leading the organization. Can you imagine, like, the most common thing that we see is you put in place these foundational elements, and then the CEO of the company is still emailing documents as attachments.
Right. right? And again, the best examples are from earlier in our day, where we have just two people on this call here. But yeah, like you go in and you're like, okay, hey, we've got all this great stuff and we're sharing via links. And then your email comes in and your CEO says, hey guys, I've attached this document for the work. Not the best guidance to adoption. So doing simple things like sending links as emails, better content sharing and working together in Teams, SharePoint, uh, whatever, Zoom, anything that you utilize, Microsoft Planner integration, whether you use Business Voice, applications and bots to streamline the way that you communicate and get approvals in, right? Super important stuff.
Yeah, and we're going to show a little bit about adoption today. Like we have a full high wire act that we're going to do today. We only have created half the content for this webinar, and everybody that's a participant in this webinar, you're going to create the rest of the content. So don't drop off. Be excited. This is like watching a NASCAR race, right? The car could totally crash, could be a fiery crash, or it could go really well. So let's keep moving. Level 3. So you start getting that adoption working, and you're flowing through, and then it's on to business intelligence, right? How do you, once people start using the technology, you have to have a better sense of what's going on in your business. How can you use the tools that are out there?
And it's important, those statistics, and I'll tell you, I get questions on that every day. Hey, Jermaine, what's the best way to ensure that my team's being productive and whether or not I can allocate resources somewhere else? And I was like, okay, well, now that you're using all of these things, there's good reporting. Here's what we can look at. Here's how we can parse that data that you have and figure out where you're losing time, where you're being inefficient, and whether or not you need 14 people to be in that department when you can only have 10 and put the other 4 to work in a new project or a new department. So super important to understand how your resources are being utilized in the business to build and scale the organization.
And when you have that understanding, then you can move on to the highest level in terms of productivity, which for us is that workflow process automation, right?
Yeah.
You get your systems, you get your automation happening. You start really getting the most out of technology.
So one of our equally favorite clients, because we don't actually have any favorites, we love everyone the same amount. One of our clients does this massive scale up and scale down every year. They reach out, they need 18 new people coming on board, and then before you know it, 2 or 3 months has passed and they have 24 going off board. And one of the great ways that we can improve that process and lag time or any of it is the whole process of how we create and onboard those users year in, year out is almost fully automated now, where it just needs one word to be typed in and boom, everything's created. The users have access. They need everything that they need. And to get to that level of automation and process, it's going to make the life of everyone easier, especially our client. They're probably going to onboard more people going forward.
All right. Sorry, I had an itchy trigger figure there. I was so excited that we're gonna move on. So we're not going to focus too much on automation unless people say they want us to focus on automation. Then we'll focus more on automation. But let's talk about driving adoption and getting into that piece, because this is a question we get from a lot of people: is how do we train our teams? How do we get them learning? Right? Because the fundamental thing that we've got to change our mindset here is we're going through a digital transformation. We're going through a modernization. This isn't like IT, the regular IT changes where everybody goes home Friday night. IT team says, hey, you're not going to have access to your files over the weekend. Over the weekend, they get moved from one server to another. And then Monday morning you come in and might be a glitch or two, but you're working exactly the same way that you worked on Friday. Now what's happening is we're transforming the technology, we're transforming how people work. So we gotta give them the resources. We gotta help train them. You can't just make these technology changes without giving them some resources. In Microsoft, we've like our team, we've got one of our senior guys is focusing a good amount of his time on productivity and innovation. And we've added for some of our clients, and this is the first time we're talking about it in a webinar, but we've added a new way that folks can train and get their teams kind of more up to speed with using Microsoft 365 so we can move beyond email. Jermaine, you want to take us through it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great ways is you've got to foster the learning internally. There's always going to be, when you look at our learning SharePoint site here, it's internal, it's focused on the organization and the things that we would like to direct our staff to learn, right? Whether it's our working remote policies and best practices that we need people to go through and have access to, whether you want to get started with Microsoft Teams or do your Microsoft 365 training to understand your platform, understand how to use the hundreds of apps that you have, and to really leverage your subscription that you're paying for as an organization. We can develop that in a few great clicks, manage the content ourselves internally, and have that directed at our staff and our team to build that training, build that adoption, give people points and everything in there, and reward them for the learning.
Yeah, so the exciting thing to me is if you're going through an email migration, you can have for your company a specific SharePoint page that's spun up that's just about email. It's just about accessing email. Then once you go through the SharePoint migration, you have SharePoint specific stuff. And then once you're driving Teams adoption or OneDrive or other different services, you add that training. And not only do you add the training, you get the analytics to see who's watching the training. And so that you understand if there's people that are struggling, if they're investing the time or they're not investing the time. So this is a company directed example. And then there's a relatively new thing called Microsoft Viva Learning, which is more self-directed. And you've been diving into this a little bit more, I think, right, Jermaine?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this now would be your personal development, what you're interested in learning, things that are specific to your own job, and being able to take courses to improve yourself. And it has inputs that come in from websites and training material that's available publicly, can be loaded up into it, and you can go along and even do your Microsoft training, or you can even load up internal trainings that are necessary. Like as an example, if you have a workplace safety training that's required by all staff, things like that can be loaded up and brought in from those relevant websites and published on the page. And then it's self-directed. You go through, you do your courses, you earn your certificates and everything, and then you have the metrics to show your CEO or your VPs, your managers, whomever, how you're progressing through that. So that really works through on the personal development side.
Okay, so drive adoption through training, either company directed, with some oversight and some coaching opportunities for managers and leaders and that sort of stuff for their teams, or they're self-directed. Here's
socially engineered by your company to make sure that you're doing the right self-directed stuff. Yes.
Self-directed using the artificial intelligence. Okay, and the other thing that I just want to point out is the other part of adoption is realizing Teams is becoming the hub of everything. Mm-hmm. So like I've got Viva Insights up here. If you see, this is my Teams from this morning. I've added an app called Viva Insights. It's sort of, Cortana was doing this before. Now they've changed it to Viva, and it's kind of letting you know what's going on with your in your inbox, giving you suggestions, people to follow up on, kind of checking in on you, helping you schedule your day, schedule focus time, stuff like that. I think some people have probably seen it, but I've got approvals on the side here. My phone system is integrated into Teams. I've got a whole bunch of Teams here, chat, messaging, all that sort of stuff. It's all coming together. And as Microsoft continues to develop this technology, we're getting project management into it. We're getting things like scheduling, booking, Cortana. It's just, think about, as we continue to adopt more and more, that you're going to find your workday, your colleagues is going to be more and more working out of Teams as your kind of central hub of where it's going.
Yeah.
All right. So, oh wait, we're done. This is it. Like we're done, right, Jermaine?
Those are all the slides. I mean, unless the contact us page is still there. But yeah, presentation's done.
All right, so now we're on to the choose your own adventure part of the day. So we're going to launch a little poll, and we're going to do some real-time collaboration here. So if you see our presentation, that's the last slide, right? I'm sharing the presentation on my computer right now. What we'd like everybody to do, go into the poll, choose the one thing that you're most interested in learning about Microsoft 365. And then what we're going to do is in real time, Jermaine and I are going to collaborate. Jermaine's going to throw some slides into this presentation, and we're going to go through them based on what everybody wants to see. So we're up to, well, we're doing well. We're getting up to about 40% of people have voted so far. And we have, oh, I'm not going to say what's leading the charge. I don't want to.
Yeah, best not to spoil it.
Yeah, no spoilers. All right. So we'll give, okay, we're up to 70%. So anybody that hasn't chosen yet, we've got a neck and, ooh, we've got a tie right now.
All right. Exciting. Let's hope I can figure out how to put some slides and stuff in here.
All right. So I think, has everybody voted? I don't see it changing anymore. I think so. We got about 75% of people have voted. The other 25% of people are going to get a coffee right now. We are going to end our poll, share results. So you should see the results up there. We've got top of the list Planner for project management, and then we've got SharePoint, and then Teams is your phone system. So if we can get, let's see if we can maybe get through those three things. So my presentation will very soon grow. So as everybody knows, when you're with Microsoft 365 and you save stuff to the cloud, you can do real-time collaboration. So right now, as I said, this presentation is running off of my computer, and Jermaine is adding new slides to it. So the first couple slides are tasked by Planner, or using Planner to use to do project management. And so we've started to do this more and more with our company. So Planner is an application that's built into Microsoft 365. You can use it web-based. You can have it right integrated into Teams. And Jermaine, I know you've used it to, I don't know if I'm asking this question, you got a couple more slides to put. I can keep talking if you want, or if you're ready to go.
No, you ask the questions away. No problem at all.
All right, good. You walk and chew bubblegum. This is impressive. So Jermaine, I know you use Planner a lot in project management for our internal initiatives when we're at quarterly goals and stuff like that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about how we use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the best things that we can kind of work through with Microsoft Planner is really just how do you ensure that people have a good option to have a task created for them, and then give them the opportunity not only to work through the task, but have tracking around it, set a deadline, set a reminder, especially for your workforce that requires more of a structure and more oversight on the things that they're doing, right? And we do it for all of our consulting practice. Everyone in the team has not only our internal quarterly objectives for things that we do to training, improvements to our processes, or any of that. We also do it for all of our quoting, our follow-up with our clients. We do it for our quarterly strategy review meetings. And we go in and we plan repeatable tasks, and we update those tasks, mark them in terms of putting comments and everything. And then we have a whole list for the entire year of output from Planner that gives you an opportunity to see everything that a person has done over the year. So in the next slide, we've got some metrics that would reflect and grow over time. And you can do it by person, by department, by company overall. And the idea here is really to understand and see where that project is going, how it's progressing, and how it's moving through that. And realistically, from a time perspective, takes you, if you're doing like we do, standard type projects that have a specific onboarding phase, implementation phase, a closeout phase, and so on, you can actually create templates that fit. So every time you load up a new project, they're standard, everybody knows which phase they're in, and you can see the metrics from that over time.
And I think this is a great solution for people that want to get out of email, paper, project management, that like maybe Microsoft Project or some of the other project management tools are just like, it's way way overkill. Like it's just too much. It's too
there's,
much
there's
there.
too much in there. There's too
Yeah.
much.
So, and it's super easy. The foundational piece here is it's better to have you kind of have to have your email in Microsoft 365 because then all the users are there, and then it's much easier. So that's a foundational piece. You don't have to be using SharePoint quite yet in terms of to have Planner in place. So the foundational piece is email, and then you can use Planner. I like it better within Teams, but you can also use it web-based if you prefer. All right, so let's talk about our, so I hope that gives people a bit of a sense. Please fire into the Q&A pane if you want us to talk a little bit more about Planner. We're gonna move on to SharePoint next, which SharePoint was the,
I believe that was number 2, yeah.
Yeah, it was number 2, right? And I think the idea here is what people were looking at, we had, and people were choosing, how do we get rid of VPN, right? How do we kind of say, hey, we just want to access our files. We want to go in Microsoft Word, file, open, get our stuff. We don't need VPN anymore. In fact, VPN wastes a whole bunch of time. So SharePoint, you've got, I think we're showing a site here on SharePoint, which is more like an internal site, but you've got a bunch of different options for SharePoint sites, right?
There are tons of options around SharePoint in itself. Realistically, from looking at how it's constructed overall, the whole purpose of SharePoint is to get you into a hub. And the hub would be the central place that I would turn up as a user. When I log in with my email and I go to my computer, I turn up at that hub. And from that hub, instead of me going through a traditional computer filing system where I go subfolder until I get somewhere, what we have here is more of a web designed to spread out and create the shortest distance between the hub and the area of information that I'm looking for. So if you're going to save a bunch of time, where you're going to stop searching for things for 20% of the time, then now you can shrink that time down and save that time, because from the hub, you can go to HR, you can go to benefits, you can go to talent acquisition, you can go to manage your own on-site, off-site, look at your performance, professional development, any of that. And once that stuff's in place, like the good part of it is that all of it now, as a site, you can go ahead and you can create any of the sites based on, let's say you want to do a product launch. So if you scroll through, Brendan, and go to the next one, this is an internal site for a product launch event. The next one is a second site. So earlier when we were talking about this, it's like, hey, I want to do a SharePoint site where I'm going to go and develop, put in a bunch of information around this project that I'm sharing externally with a client. So the client can come to the SharePoint site. They've got that link. They've got access to the site, and the site have everything on it. Here's all the work that's been done. It's linked to your planner. It's got the information and updates being published as news, right? So the same way we were talking about the training earlier through a SharePoint site, you can do your planning and focus events, whether they're internal or client facing, and you can actually prepare in, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Again, you create a template, you throw it up, and boom, you've got live updates that can happen for the client being managed by your project team.
And the other piece that I just wanted to make sure that, like, the most common thing that we see with SharePoint and the reason people want to move to SharePoint is exactly what Jermaine and I are doing right now, right? So you saw when we started that we were here, the presentation was over. And because this PowerPoint document is saved in SharePoint, we're able to co-author, we're able to collaborate on it. We're able to both have it open at the same time and make changes on the go. So Jermaine added the planner stuff to it, right? He added the slides around SharePoint. And we can, you take your Excel documents, if you're in finance or you've got a metric sheet or you've got something that people work on a regular basis, you have a proposal. Man, I used to hate it. Like, we'd be working on a proposal or RFP or something like that, and somebody does some work on it, then emails it off to somebody else, right? Then they do some work, and then they email it around. And you just have, like, email overload. You have no idea what the most recent version of the document is. And you just waste so much time. It's like just back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And we hear this nonstop from all sorts of people, all sorts of businesses, all sorts of clients. And what you put SharePoint in place, then you send a link, you work on it at the same time. If for those who have been our webinars before, this is how Jermaine and I work on presentations. We'll hop on, we'll create a presentation, and then him and I will be on a Teams call, and we'll be editing the presentation as we go. And it just saves so much time. It's amazing. It's amazing how much better it is. And you have, like, you can access it through Teams. You can access it directly through Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, just with file open or file save as, that sort of thing. Or you can go to SharePoint website, which looks like this. And
yeah, and this is so much more comfortable. Like, well, when I look at this, and I used to go to the server and VPN login, go to the server. Now I've got a nice tile that's got information on it that tells me exactly where I want to go. I can favorite the site. I can see my frequent sites, and I can just click on it and go. I'm not going through that whole, 1,800 steps before I get to my goal.
And one thing I really like is in that search bar here, I'll use my cursor here, right at the top. So you can type in, if you start typing in budget, it'll pop up the most recent documents that you worked on related to budget. So, like, if you're like me, I don't really remember where I save stuff. And I have a okay idea and stuff like that, but you can see your last stuff is popping up there on that homepage, or you start to type into search, and the search functionality, like Microsoft search functionality used to be trash. The search functionality now it's incredible. It's so fast to find stuff. Like, we go back to that 20%, 20% side of things, where we're spending 20% of our time looking for documents and that kind of thing. So we're almost running out of time here, but Jermaine, why don't we spin up those slides? I think there was some interest in Teams voice as well.
Yeah,
and how you use Teams as a phone system. So we'll just add to one of the most popular things, especially since COVID. I remember when we went into COVID, nobody cared about their phone systems, right? Everybody's like, yeah, whatever. I got a Polycom phone in the boardroom. We got some old thing that says Nortel in the back room, and it's dusty, and the phones are kind of crap, but whatever. Phones don't really matter, right? And then all of a sudden we're working remotely, and we're working hybrid, and the people that had cloud-based phone systems, it was great, right?
Let's draw the line there and say it's any cloud-based phone system at the time would have been perfectly great, because you had that access, external and internal.
Yeah. So you did the number of people when COVID hit that, like, you'd call and the automated messages, sorry, we're working remotely, leave a message in the general voicemail box and somebody will call you back. It was, for those that are kind of sales focused organizations and stuff like that, the number of leads they must have been missing and stuff like that. The other thing that we find, even if you have a cloud-based phone system, what you're missing out on is we have all these different apps. So you have a cloud-based phone system. We got an app for the phone system. We got an app for this. We got an app for that. And you get it. There's been a huge value in getting into Teams. And the pricing of it, we've done a whole bunch of deployments of this. The quality of it, like, we use Teams for our own phone system in our office, and the pricing of it, I think, is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, we've got tons of options that are out there as well. But Teams Voice is integrated straight in. We've got multiple situations where people are joining our meetings from the actual Teams app, and they're calling in from their cars and things like this. So it really helps to integrate everything again into that one single platform. Right?
Yeah, you can use it. You could have a regular phone. Like, if you're, I don't want to pick on lawyers, but say you're a lawyer's office, it's really used to having a physical phone, right? You can have a phone on your desk and have it integrated with Teams, or as you said, it can be on your mobile phone, can be on your computer, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then you have a great option to not only see all the people you're working with, as per the next slide, but you can also you have an option to transfer in between meetings as well. So as an example, I do this on a regular basis. I'll be halfway through a meeting, and then I need to leave. So I pick up my mobile phone, I open the Teams app on my mobile phone, and then I just transfer from this to the next device. So, and again, it's the click of a single button. On the next slide, you'll see, it's like it tells you, hey, you're already in this meeting. Would you like to join this meeting from a new device? Or would you like to add or transfer the call to the device? On multiple occasions, I'll just walk into my office. I'll open up my mobile where I'm on, open my computer, launch, hit transfer to this device, and Bob's your uncle, I'm on the other computer, device, or otherwise with the same call, and there's next to zero interruption. Pretty cool stuff.
Seamless connectivity. Okay, so we've got we gave you the context, we gave you the reason why, the potential of moving beyond email, how much more you can be productive. We gave you the live demo of how you can collaborate, even when you're on a webinar with a whole whack of people watching you. Great job, by the way, Jermaine, doing that. That's not easy doing when everybody's watching you and still smiling. It's good stuff. And then we're here for questions. So if you want to pop some questions in the Q&A pane, we're happy to answer any questions that folks have. I see a couple in there already. So just drop some questions. If there's stuff that you want us to dive in, if you want us to talk about any of the other things that we didn't get to that we had in the poll, just ask. We're happy to stay on for a few more minutes and go through this. As we said, our next webinar is coming up December the 8th at 11 a.m. If you have any questions, want to contact either Jermaine or I directly, there's our contact information, direct phone lines, emails. If you call those direct phone lines, by the way, you'll be calling into a Teams voice system. It's probably obvious, but just to let you know. And there we have it. Are you ready for question time, Jermaine?
Absolutely.
Which one do you want to go for at first?
Why don't you pick? Why don't you pick? I think let's do the crossover question from David.
Okay, David's question. We'll go last in, first out. So David's question: is there a crossover between Planner and MS Project? When should you use one or the other?
Awesome. Okay, we had a couple more just roll in as well. Okay, so that's a great question, David. So for everyone here, Planner, I would suggest as managing your internal team, managing your corporate objectives, and making it easy for your team and the people within your office space to kind of function well around their objectives, their training, their management of their time. That's a great way to use Planner. It takes 5 minutes to create some buckets and put timelines and everything into it. Quick, easy, no problem. If you're doing a client-facing project as well, and it's got multiple groups participating, it's got multiple levels, multiple phases over years, I would recommend you use Project at that time, right? So smaller scale, internal, simpler things that you can throw in and kind of do in a short period of time, great, use Planner for that. If you're planning something with several hundred stakeholders, massive building project or any of that, you'd want to use Project. And the dependency there is because with Project, it's more of the structure of how you're going to continue that project over time. And then what you do is, and here's where the crossover happens, each section of that project, which is outlaid with 500 steps, you take each section and then you delve those mini projects out to everyone in Planner, right? So, but yeah, that would be the best way to do it. A recommended way, I should say, not necessarily the best way.
Yeah, the other thing I found with Planner is Planner was really born in the cloud. It's a cloud-based application. Project was born desktop-based. You know what? I got that wrong. David actually put in his question is one of the first questions that put in. We also had a quick one about accessing the presentation after the meeting. All of our webinars are available at techify.ca/webinars. You'll see a link right on the home page. So if anybody wants to go access a recording, if you join late, if you just want to go back and revisit some of the stuff that we talked about, then that's fine. We had a couple questions about managing approvals and approvals workflow. So, Jermaine, why don't we talk a little bit more about that? We've gone through this in some of our videos, but here's the concept, and here's the idea. What happened with COVID that made managing approvals really important. Like we used to in the office walk around with a document people would sign and use paper and that sort of stuff. All of a sudden we can't really, moving forward, even those that are mostly going back, we can't really do that anymore, right? We need to create workflows, we need to digitize things, and there's an application called Microsoft Approvals that you can just add within Teams. You go on the left-hand side of Teams and just add approvals. And then you can build in, you can use it in a very basic, like you just create a new approval and say which people you want to approve something. And then it'll show you within Teams who's approved it, who's still waiting on. It'll give notifications to the people that you're waiting on approval for. You can do settings, or you can get a little bit more, complicated, right? Like you can start doing workflows like person A needs to approve it, and you can get Adobe Sign will integrate into Microsoft Approvals, so you can use Teams and Approvals as the workflow engine, and then Adobe Sign is the actual software that you use
behind it. Yeah.
Right. And then the idea is you look at workflows in your company and say, where is it that we need approvals, where it's taking a bunch of time, or people are following up or nagging, or there's paper, or there's emails, or there's, there's wasted time, and say, let's put that into Microsoft Approvals. Let's try that. Use Adobe Sign. I'm pretty sure you can, if you prefer DocuSign, you could do that. Adobe Sign's right integrated into Teams. And Microsoft's got a bit of a partnership with them, but it's a pretty neat process, and it's definitely born out of COVID, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jermaine, do you want to take that follow-up question, whether Adobe Acrobat includes Adobe Sign?
Yeah. So Adobe Acrobat, it depends. You've got to purchase Adobe Sign as an add-on to your Acrobat suite, because Acrobat by itself is a reader. And if you've got the reader so say you go Acrobat 10 or 11 or whichever version, and you've got the reader with editability, it really is just you pick a tier that includes Adobe Sign, or you can get Adobe Sign separate, because it can be independent on its own.
All right, so Kimberly and Shagla, hopefully that was the information you're looking for. You could email us too as a follow-up, and we can send you links. I'm sure Sandra will know the video that I'm thinking of. I think we just kind of parsed out a video on Microsoft Approvals that gave a little bit more background on it.
And there's a slide if you want to go ahead and share your screen again. There's a slide in there with the GIF that we created that one time for approval.
Oh, all right. Hang on. Let's do that. That's fun. All right. I probably have to go back the other way. Look.
Back up. Yeah.
There we go. So here's what we've got right within Teams. We've got a employment letter. We see who it was requested by. So it was requested by me. It was approved by Ryan. It was rejected by Jermaine. So Jermaine obviously didn't like that candidate. But we have here, it's right within approvals, the documents right here. The documents is a link, so we can just access it here. And none of this is in email, which we like.
Correct.
All right. So let's go one more question. I like this one. Well, I like all the questions really, but this one's super fun. We can stop sharing. All right. What's your favorite non-email feature on Microsoft 365 and why?
Ooh.
This sounds like a dating question. Like this is
right. I don't know if I want to get into bed fully with Microsoft, but there you go. That is a challenging one though. I mean, to pick a specific thing. Why don't you go first?
So here's my favorite part about Microsoft 365. You know, it's got to be SharePoint. Plus, and I will add. Well, I have a second one too, but let's start with my favorite non-email feature on Microsoft 365 is SharePoint. Being able to collaborate like we did today, update documents in real time, have multiple people working on things at the same time, exchange information, even having kind of file management. And I had, you know what? Yeah, here, let me tell you a little story. So last week I was working on, I had a meeting with a prospect, potential client for Techify. And I go to open the proposal that I delivered to them, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or something like that. I'm like, uh-oh, I saved over the proposal. You know how we all sometimes like use proposals from previous stuff and then we use it. So I'd actually edited their proposal and put a completely different prospect's name in and different information. Oh. And I'm like, oh man. I'm up. I was like 2 minutes from a meeting and we were going to talk about this proposal. And I'm like, wait a sec, I'm hooped. I went into SharePoint on the web, found the document, went into versions, 4 different versions of the document, went to the last version, clicked restore, and boom, I was back in business.
Back in business from 3 weeks ago, which is great. Like versioning is important. And that's a pretty good one. Yeah, I like that. So yours was all SharePoint though. Yours were all SharePoint. My favorite non-email thing is Teams. And Teams because all of the communication, our giving praise, sending people feedback and sending them gift cards, all this stuff we can do through Teams. And it's a great way to uplift the day while you're remote, to be able to chat and have direct conversations quickly. And during the pandemic, some of the staff at Techify, we've taken a liking to working while on video with other people, but we're not doing any of the same work. We're not collaborating on anything. We're just doing our own jobs as if we were working next to the people, and we'd have conversations about stuff completely separate to the jobs while we were doing our work. So that's a non-collaboration collaboration just for the people feel of it. But that's my Teams is my favorite part of it because again, you know, I guess I'm the talker in the group.
Well, I was going to say the other one I was going to add, if the question said, what's your 2 favorite things? My second favorite thing would be anything in the Microsoft 365 suite that cuts down on the number of emails I get. So your point about Teams having chat messages, posts, sharing documents through there. We all have so much email overload these days, and it's nonstop. And the more that you can cut down on the amount of email that you get, which some of my Microsoft 365 setup actually does, go figure. But the more you can cut down on that email, the better off I think we are.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Jermaine, thanks for once again hosting, I don't know what number webinar this is. We've done so many now.
I think we're on 14. 14 is a good number. Let's go with 14.
14. Yeah. And they're all on techify.ca/webinars. Thank you all for joining. I hope that was useful. Feel free to reach out if there's anything that we talked about that you'd like to explore further. Our contact information, I think most people have it, but it was within the webinar today. Thanks a lot and have a very good day.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it, Brendan. Take care.